Hello, everybody. Welcome to Everything in Moderation Podcast, episode 24. We have a lovely guest here today. So what are we discussing today? Okay, good. You read?
Something with politicians and how they don't agree with, I don't know, their will to live, maybe.
Well, it's good to see that you read the briefing papers. I say that like we actually have a briefing paper. We go into this just no lube, just raw.
Okay, keep it PG, please.
No. I when I upload these videos, I click no on the parental guidance. Like this is not for children under the age of 18. Yes. Like I just want to make sure. Sometimes we don't even curse in these episodes, which is very impressive. But like sometimes we need it. You know, it helps. Okay. So like Melanie said, we are going to be discussing this article that Eric actually sent to us. Well, first things first. Wishing a big happy birthday to Sean.
Sean!
He is probably out getting drunk right now. Eric,
drink one for me, please.
Okay. He will see this Wednesday, but I'm sure he will dedicate. Okay. So, he's out right now. Eric is with him, and Luke is working on a project. So, just to keep that straight, Melanie decided to step up to the plate.
I didn't decide, I was forced. I'm kidding.
Okay. So we have this article from promarket.org. It's the publication of the Stigler Center at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Interesting. Okay. So Eric brought up in a group chat the other day about this this article, and this article is about a study that politicians vote against the will of their constituents 35% of the time. So what that means is like there's like a lot of talk about politicians being corrupt and accepting like bribes and stuff. So this article kind of aims to explain that this is kind of malarkey, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, 35% of the time is still sizable when you consider all the politicians that are in this country. But 65% of the time, they do vote with the same values of the people that vote for them. Mm-hmm. So like, say you're voting for someone, what's an issue that's important to you?
Immigration reform.
Okay, immigration reform. So who do you like for immigration reform? If you even, is there like a politician that you?
What do I like? I feel like I don't like none of them. I don't. What do you like?
I mean, we've spoken before about how immigration in the United States is pretty difficult. You shouldn't necessarily let illegals in, but the process should be a little easier because you mentioned that your aunt, right?
Yes.
So briefly explain the story about your aunt.
So we're trying to bring my aunt from Ecuador to the United States with my grandma. Like my grandma has already been here, but she can't travel by herself. So we wanted my aunt to travel with her, but she doesn't get, I'm guessing, I don't know how you would say
an appointment, right?
Like an appointment with like the immigration office until 2022.
And when did she try to put this in?
It was this year.
Okay.
This year, like earlier, like January, I believe. I don't know. So she can't do anything. We can't do anything until 2022, until she even gets an appointment to like, view her case, if she's even allowed to have anything to come here.
Okay. So basically if you voted for someone, it would be someone that, since that is probably your most passionate, that's your most passionate like thing,
Yeah, because
political
that's
issue.
something that's like I went through. I mean,
She's
obviously
an immigrant.
I didn't come here illegally, but like it's, I know what it's like coming to a new country, not knowing the language, seeing your parents work like a million shifts just to like provide for you.
So you would a lot of like our country, we have like one issue voters. So if they see that this one candidate does share like the values that like you possess, you'll vote for that candidate over someone who might have a better like overall plan, but you, just because you're passionate about this one issue, you're more likely to vote for the person that's like the single issue. Correct. I mean,
if that's something I would do, or if that's just
general
what somebody would do.
You're pretty different, but
I'm built different.
But would like, okay, so it's versus like that. Someone's like, oh, I'm gonna like lower the immigration criteria, but like all the rest of his policies suck, right?
Okay.
Okay. So, but then there's someone else, and he's just like no immigrants whatsoever, but all the other policies are good. What do you think? What would you do?
That's a hard one. What are the other policies?
I mean, this is just purely hypothetical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, I know I need details in order to make a decision. Like, I can't just make a decision of this, because it's just, if that's very important, that's not the only thing that's important to me, but it's something that I would want, to be looked at, to like actually be like, I want something to be done about like what's happening with immigration and everything. But it's just not the only thing that this country needs, help with.
Okay, fair enough.
But I guess it's just like, overall, I would just want a politician that actually, like, how we talked about the channels, the communication channels.
Yeah.
How politicians should be a communication channel, not, just, it's just them. It's just forget the people. It should be like, you speak for the people.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay, so that actually kind of segues nicely into this article, because that article proves that the majority of them do that. Right. So we, I mean, who knows? The article could be faulty, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt. And I think that it's probably true anyway. Like, it's more along the lines of this. It's like, okay, so like you want to vote for this candidate because they vehemently support pro-choice, right? Okay, so that same person is probably not very likely to, when there's a vote in Congress or whatever, vote against pro-choice. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't think it's that out of the ordinary. Like when Eric first sent it, I was like, really? I'm like, interesting. So we looked at it, and I find that it definitely makes sense. But again, there's 35% of politicians that will do just that. So like pro-life, they go from pro-life, or maybe they're supporting like pro-life, but then when it comes to like the congressional vote, they vote for pro-choice. That could be for any number of reasons. It could be bribes. It could be just trying to advance their political career. So yeah. So basically what you said is you want politicians to be the channel for which they speak for the people that can't really speak for themselves.
Just, just be the voice of the people.
Yeah, they're supposed to represent us.
The people who,
and this study did show that they do that. The majority, 35% though. So how do you feel about the people that don't? Like, what do you think their motivations are for not following what the people that, so they're like, again, this is really important to you. Immigration is really important to you. You vote for this person because they're going to fight for immigration. until their socks fall off.
Okay.
Okay. And then they turn around and you see that they voted against immigration. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think their motivation would be for that?
I think most of these politicians just like to say what we want to hear. So once they get that power, once we get them to that power, they, they have the ability to do whatever, well, not whatever they want, but like they gain a little more confidence and they're like, okay, now I got what I want. I could do what I want now.
Mm-hmm.
So
you think it's more of like a power thing?
Yeah.
Not necessarily like a money thing?
Oh, I mean, money. I would love to think that some of these politicians don't do it just for money, but maybe there are. I don't know them. Like, I'm not inside their heads, but some of them do these things for money.
It is possible. There shows that like lobbying money and whatnot is a big part of politics. But again, with this paper, it was very interesting. Okay, so I read this. This was actually pretty cool. This was something that was just kind of common sense to me. Okay, there I go, activating my activity monitor. All right, so you were a communications major.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm the marketing major. We're practically the same major.
Literally.
So with political campaigns, this is right up your alley. So I'm ready for, I hope you're ready and the viewers are ready to just get served some crazy information.
Oh, well, don't put your bar so high for me. Okay, hit me.
She's pretty small, so she probably won't be able to jump up.
Why does everything have to be with my height? Okay, we're gonna talk about that later.
So, political campaigns, right? What do you think is a political campaign? Or like, have you seen one that is good? Or in specifics, like if you have a specific example of someone or just an actual commercial. You don't necessarily have to agree with the commercial or campaign or whatnot, but you could just like, is it effective? What makes an effective campaign versus an ineffective one?
An effective campaign is one that I don't know, like what they teach us in school is that an effective campaign is something that really just catches your attention and it's not something that hasn't been done before. Like for example, when they use campaigns for like smoking and all the health, like diabetes and all that stuff, like the really dark commercials get your attention.
Yeah, because it's like it's emotions. It's invoking emotions.
They use emotion. I don't know. Like I think definitely one that uses a lot of emotion is probably the most effective. At least for me, it gets my attention.
I would say that statistics would probably prove you correct too.
Yeah.
So based on the last election, do you think? Well, like compare the two different campaign platforms that both candidates.
Okay, well, you know how I feel about the campaigns for both candidates. Like I hated their campaigns because it was mostly, well, from what I saw, it was mostly just them attacking each other and not really stating what they were going to do for this country. And that's just a campaign that I never really paid mind to because it was just like, okay, so cool, the other candidate sucks. What makes you better,
Yeah.
That's why.
I think that
but then that's also a method that has been used for like ever.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. It's like we talked about this in the last international edition episode. The common enemy is like if you get people to rally around a common enemy, the case for your choosing is going to be stronger. So like I think that this election had sort of the pretext of being a election that would really decide like the fate of America.
Mhm.
It certainly felt like that. Like
Yeah.
the world was like
Gonna end.
the U.S. itself and the world around us was holding its breath, awaiting to see who won. Right, a lot of controversy, just all throughout it. It was despicable. Just yeah. Okay.
We're not gonna get into detail about the campaign.
No, but that I kind of lost my train of thought here. Hold on, and it'll come back to me.
We should put a cat video just to entertain the viewers. You're talking about campaigns, right?
Yes, campaigns.
Effective campaigns.
Yes. So, but those two campaigns created a, like, if Trump wins, America will plunge into a racist and destructive, like for minorities, world. For Biden, it would be like being like literally just kneeling down to China, to other countries that kind of like have us on a leash. So it that's where it begins, and that's where it splits like the two voter parties. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, like they should talk about policies, but like no one really cares about policies. When you actually, I care about policies. I feel like most people that actually care about like voting or something are going to care about policies, because I'm not going to vote for a candidate that majority of what they run on I don't fundamentally agree with. You know, I'm not a one issue voter, but a lot of people are, and that's okay, because that's how people easily make decisions, because not everyone has the time of day to look through all their policies, which is so eloquently written on their campaign websites. But so one of the things that we saw after the election is like nothing really happened. The Trump fans, their fears of Biden doing all of these like crazy stuff to delegitimize like America did not happen. There's criticism, sure. I think that there's would be criticism for either or. It's just going to happen, especially now, like with social media, and you can see more people like actively complaining about certain things. But in the grand scheme of things, what happens in Washington doesn't always necessarily affect where you are at the state level or town level. There are certain issues, yeah, definitely. I know that like the pro-choice and pro-life kind of thing was hanging in the balance there. So that obviously matters to a lot of people. But so now here begs the question, this last election, we had the most voter turnout in the history of our country. What do you think about that?
I mean, with all the events that happened and all like the media coverage and everything, it definitely had everybody participating. I think it probably would have to do with a lot of like the media, because you know a lot of people were creating trends and everything, and then now like celebrities were like, well, mostly all celebrities, at least on my feed, were participating, which I don't remember them like during they weren't too, you know, opened about their political opinions. But yeah, that's what I think. I think it had to do a lot with what was happening in the media, and like definitely the events that were happening during the campaign too. Yeah.
Do you think that with the sheer number of voter turnout that we had, that there's going to be a certain or large percentage of those voters be very uneducated voters?
Large percentage?
Large, minimum, whatever.
I don't know, because I do think that some people do vote just because others people tell them to vote, which is what I what I was talking about, like the whole celebrities telling you vote for this person, vote for this person, that has a lot of influence, especially for like the people who really don't know much about politics. But
yeah, so
yeah.
like it with that is like, if Ariana Grande says vote for Joe Biden, the person who doesn't know much about politics but is eligible to vote,
yeah, because
most
like
likely.
if okay, let's use like Ariana Grande for example. Like I love Ariana Grande, and I know she probably is an awesome person, but like if she votes for Biden, then you might think, oh, Biden is also a cool person, might be like a nice person or so. So maybe I should go vote for him because also my idol voted for him too. So it's just, it kind of all connects in a way for those people who actually like don't really have like any knowledge of what's really happening.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that Eric brought up in the group chat was making voting mandatory. How do you feel about that?
I don't know how I would feel about that. I know people are not probably gonna still have an issue with that. They're still gonna be like, oh, like no, don't make us vote. Which I mean,
Luke.
mandatory voting.
Well,
that's probably also another, like if I'm a person that really doesn't care about politics or really doesn't know anything and I'm mandated to vote, I'm gonna be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna pick whatever person I see and I'm just gonna go on with my day.
So that was like the immediate concern I brought up to Eric, and Eric just said, that happens anyway. So I'm like, yeah, pretty much. So that, I think he's definitely correct with that, and allowing more, if there was mandatory voting, it would, I mean, obviously it would ensure maybe a more wider range of opinions to be seen. But there's also a thing with statistics where, and like surveys and stuff, I'd obviously this, I mean, I guess an election is sort of a survey in a way. That even with the more data you have, that it won't necessarily affect the result. Just because you have okay, so I'll pose a question to the viewers and to you. So this person takes a survey, right? 500 people. Surveys 500 people about attitudes towards Italian food, correct? Okay. So now, and they get them from different areas, not just from New Jersey, where there's obviously a large Italian population. But then this other researcher says, oh, I'm going to survey 500,000 people. Who do you think is going to have the more accurate survey?
500,000 people?
That's what common sense would tell you, but according to statistics and that, it's not very true. The only difference would be maybe like less than 1%. Because it's not like, that's why polls, like when you see polls on these media outlets where it says like, you see in the fine print on the bottom, because legally they're required to do that. It says sampled 2,500 people in whatever, just because they did 2,500 people, doesn't necessarily mean that it's skewed. It could be, but say that if both researchers go to those 2,500 people, but then another researcher goes to 250,000 people, and they do it with like honesty and integrity, they'll have similar results. So there's a lot of that. So if mandatory voting did happen, how do you think that, okay, so let's take this election, for example. If we did mandatory voting for this election, do you think it would have changed the outcome, or it would have made maybe Biden win by a larger margin, or Trump slightly edging it out, or what do you think? Or do you think it would just stay the same?
I think it probably would have stayed the same.
Yeah. I would probably agree with that, because I think, how many people voted this election? Like 7 million? something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Around there.
So that could be totally wrong, but
You might be wrong.
Yeah.
It sounded like just like
it's
you're
kind of
just pulling
crazy.
numbers out of your
It's kind of
ass.
crazy that like I don't know. Hold on. Now I'm actually curious. Okay. How many people in this past election? Come on, Wikipedia.
You go to Wikipedia. What do you expect?
Oh. Wait.
It's 2020. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the voting age population was 250
7 million.
yeah, amount around that. And the people that actually voted was 159 million. Okay, so 7 million like times
You were way off.
yeah, I was. Okay. Well, at least I fact check, you know. I really try.
You went to Wikipedia. That's
Okay,
fact
listen.
checking for you. If middle school teaches you anything, do not go to Wikipedia for facts.
Dude, Wikipedia is actually like a
Don't let your professor see this.
okay. So 2020 had 66.7% of the population turn out to vote, which is very impressive. So yeah, I would definitely think that if you have anything larger than 50% of the population, so it's 66.7%, the other 33.3% isn't going to matter what they vote for. But do I think mandatory voting is a good idea? I think it's I wouldn't be against it. I don't know necessarily if it would change things. But at the very least, it will make people more want to get more involved with these topics and whatnot, which I think is a good thing. And just to kind of circle it back to campaigns. So you said that a campaign that invokes emotion is a good one, right? Do you think that money spent and campaign success has a correlation? Like money spent on the campaign? No. Okay. So that's what that article also proved, was that money and the money they spend on their campaigns normally has no correlation with their actual success. And I think if you just want to look very easily, you look at Mike Bloomberg with the DNC. He spent the most out of like any campaign ever, and he didn't even get past the first few rounds. So the thing is, and the point that Eric and I agreed with was that you need to have policies or have beliefs that people like. That's the most important thing. So if you have those beliefs and policies that people like, and you had them before people liked you, chances are you're not going to change them. So that's why I do think that this article is valid, and I think that it definitely raises a interesting question and dispels a rumor that politicians are misconception. Politicians that politicians just take whatever kind of money, or they pander to a certain group, and then they just say, yeah, fuck you, when they get into office. So they don't do that. No, apparently. The majority. But like,
there are some people who do that though. Yeah. Like, that's my point. There's some people.
So how do you think you would, we'll close on this, but like, how do you think that you would eliminate that?
Checking. Well, like as a voter? What do you mean? What do you mean?
If you can make like if you could just use a magic wand to just kind of make it go all away without getting rid of the people, like the politicians that do that, how do you do that? What do you change to make them, to curb them from not doing that?
Like not having their jobs for the like
for saying that they are like for something, and then when it's time for like a vote or something, they go against that.
No,
feel like that would be something that came from my mouth, not yours.
Yeah, but like, you know.
So
No, like, well, if they're already there, like if they're already in their spot that they want to be in, and they show signs of like not caring, how do I make that go away?
Yes.
You take the spot away. You eliminate them. Okay, well, no. First of all, I always say that a politician has to have a good reputation, not like you being caught doing something nice. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Remember how
Yeah.
we talked about that? Like,
yeah.
you
There's a lot of performative things.
you call the press and be like, hey, I'm gonna give ice cream to this little girl who hasn't had ice cream in a week, for example. And they photograph you and then do that. And they're like, oh, this man is nice and everything. But actually look back into your like background and see what have you done without being asked, type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like,
I would agree with that. Okay. All right, that's enough for this one. Maybe Mel will be back sometimes. Okay.
I'm kidding. Call me back when you talk about immigration. I have a lot to say about that.
Okay.
Even though I think, have you talked about it already?
No, we haven't.
There you go.
Okay.
Next episode.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's all from 1/4 of everything in moderation.
What do you want me to say?
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. See ya.